What is happening, everybody? And welcome to episode 2 of the Wet Willy Pod with your hosts, Jay and Adam. We're coming at you in, I guess, the end of fantasy week number 1. Some of us are feeling good, some of us are feeling bad about our teams. We'll get through that. But a lot has changed since we last saw you guys. We went from being in one fantasy league together to now two. Adam was gracious enough to join my other league, my work league, after we had a falling out with two other GMs. They didn't want to renew their contracts, so Adam was gracious enough to take the worst team in that league. I'm sure he will go through what he had to take over, and yeah, I'll throw it in your ball. How do you feel now that we're Sunday?
It was a rough week. I don't feel too good, I'll be honest. I think the hardest part of it is that the other team that got taken over had Austin Matthews, and he has two hat tricks. So I gotta say that's a rough one. That's a hard one,
Yeah, that's
and
that,
against me, no less. Against me in the first week, no less. Yeah, yeah.
I was about to say that. Okay,
Yeah.
I wanted that to be clear. Not only did he not have the Matthews team, but he's also facing the Matthews team right now. So we were just talking about this pre-pod, but how it happened was this is my work league, so we tried to keep it a work league. So we had one guy join. He took over the Matthews team because he was first, and then the whole time I was like, I have a buddy because I knew you would join. I'm like, I have a buddy that would join. Whatever, we could try to keep it work league, but I'm like, for sure Adam's gonna join. Didn't happen. So then Adam took over the team with honestly in any I guess in any other league that team would have had first overall pick. But the way we do it is the four teams that get knocked out in the first round of playoffs get thrown into a bracket, and winner of that bracket gets first overall pick. So it's usually rewards like the best team that has a at week 1 of playoffs essentially, which is what happened. The team with Drysidle ended up getting first overall pick. So, so
Oh.
league members, if you're watching, this is why we changed our Yahoo settings.
Yeah, the Yahoo one definitely got changed because this is a tough one. Yeah, so I ended up choosing I had two keepers, 18 league. I had to choose between Darlene, Georgiev, Nylander, and Braden Point. I
You didn't take Nylander,
well,
our
I
namesake.
probably I possibly could have now, yeah, but I was at the time I'm thinking, all right, like for an actual keeper, I mean, like no
For
offense to
sure,
Willie,
for
he's not
sure,
a top 16 guy in the league. You know what I mean? Like I love him, but anyways, so
for sure.
I went with Georgiev. I figured like he's like he's a lock for 35, 38 wins. And I took Darlene for the upside. I feel like he could be, if Yossi starts to fall off the aging curve, whatever. I feel like Darlene's easily the next best defenseman after Makar. So seemed like a no brainer. I mean, I would have liked to have the choice of Austin Matthews and Brady Kachuk and the third overall pick. That would
Or
have been
Mitch
nice.
Marner or
Yeah,
Stutzel.
yeah,
Yeah, that team was
yeah.
crazy.
So yeah, it was rough. And not only did he get the two hat tricks against me, he had Jari, so he locked in a shutty as well.
Yeah,
One of the three shutties in week one.
that was
So
a monster week. That's a bad week to start. That's just demoralizing.
yeah,
But you know
yeah.
what? Get that week 1 out of the way. It's
That's
only
it.
up from here.
That's it. So we're gonna turn it around. We're gonna turn it around. Gonna have to get
Yeah, so
spicy.
we just thought, oh, honestly, yeah, so we just thought we'd just go through at least the first couple of rounds of that draft and see, because it did kind of differ from our Yahoo draft, at least for the first round or two. And
Yeah, it
then,
was different. I think there were better. Well, better. There were very different keepers between the two leagues. I think the other league prioritized goaltending a little bit more. I think Georgiev, me, was the only person who took a goalie as a keeper in this league.
yeah, it's
So I
true.
think that's important. I think the only defenseman that got kept was Makar, and I believe
Yeah,
no, sorry, and Darlene. Obviously, I kept
yeah,
Darlene.
Makar and Dahlin.
But I think
Yeah,
that
the
was the
rest
same
roll
for the other league
forwards.
as well, though, right? I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Yeah, like
both
the only
leagues.
keepers in our other leagues were Sorokin and Shesterkin, which I understand they should be keepers.
Yeah.
And then goalies went early too. Like Ottinger went in the first round in that pick, and then so did Georgiev. He went 10th overall.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting drafting between leagues. That's why I always have trouble. Like I always like plan which draft is going to be first and try to give myself a couple days. Because last year when I drafted our league first, it was like goalies are flying, defensemen are flying, and then when I drafted this ESPN league, it's like, oh, I'm drafting defensemen, but everyone else is drafting forwards. But this is the first year that I feel like this draft went pretty kind of well rounded. Like I have not seen a defenseman run happen
Yeah, it
at all
was
in the last 4 years that happened here.
it was definitely more defenseman heavy than I was expecting, but not on goal.
Yeah,
Goalies were so
yeah, goalies
wild.
were late.
Um, so I guess we could kind of jump into a little bit. I mean, obviously Jason Robertson, first overall, would have been nice. I would have loved to have
Again,
picked up like a lock
yeah,
keeper. Um, but next pick came to me, and I was thinking, I thought about reaching for Stu. I think Ottawa's got a rising team, and I think that Stu has 100 point, 120 point potential. If the league,
God,
if the NHL keeps in this, the rise in scoring continues. But I was just like, you know what? I gotta lock in Shesterkin. I think that as much as I like Georgiev, I think in terms of actual skill of the goaltender, I think Shesterkin's a bit better.
he's
Um,
a stud.
he's a stud, and
He
but to be
was my
honest,
keeper.
I was kind of I expected the goalies to maybe I don't know, I guess some goalies went, but I think in the later rounds I probably could have picked up just as many good goalies. Like I don't know, at one point I know you can kind of get into this. You scooped Aiden Hill pretty late in the draft, and
I
that's only
did.
because Logan Thompson went first. So I guess someone didn't know
Yeah,
that that Aiden Hill's the starter. I don't
yeah,
know.
my boy Rufa. Like, let
Yeah,
me look at the draft right now. So we were in round 15. Where did he go?
he went in 14,
Okay,
round
we were around
14.
14.
Yeah.
Yeah, Logan Thompson. So round 14, Logan Thompson gets picked and right there because I had Aiden Hill in my Yahoo league. So I had Aiden Hill on my radar. I get here because I'm very high on him. He won the Stanley Cup. They paid the guy 14.9. I get it. They're probably gonna do a timeshare, but eventually he's gonna take the net. Like
Yeah.
it's inevitable. So once Logan Thompson went, my queue right away was at Aiden Hill. But I waited on defensemen so long because I drafted my first three defensemen in the first 3 rounds. So I picked up Tony DeAngelo in the 15th, and then Aiden Hill right after, 2 picks later in the 16th round. And so far, after 1 week, he's the number one fantasy goalie in both our leagues. So I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I was kind of pissed because I was looking to, obviously I kept Georgiev and I picked Shesterkin second overall, so I was stuck. I was good on my first two goalies. I was thinking, okay, I'll scoop someone with in the last round of the draft, and I had Aiden Hill queued up, and you picked him 6 picks before me. So you did that to me a lot this draft. You did that to me a lot this draft. It
I
was rough.
Yeah, this draft was very interesting. So I noticed after I recapped our Yahoo draft, I sat on defensemen a lot. Like I had Makar as a keeper, and then I think I picked Yossi at the top of the second round, and then I was like, oh, I was good. And then I'm scooping forwards, but by the time I came to pick my third and fourth, it was such slim pickings, and I was like, ah, fuck. And already Wierenski went down. Like he was my third defenseman off the board. He went down. So luckily in an 8-man league, I was able to scoop the wire, got some Shea Theodore, Tony DeAngelo action. I didn't know D'Angelo was actually running the power play. I had freaking no idea.
Yeah, it was kind of a toss
Uh,
up. They weren't sure what was going to happen, and at one point in preseason, I believe it was Burns and D'Angelo, two defensemen on the power play. So,
yes, I
um,
think they're still doing that. Like they still did that last night.
did they? Yeah.
So I guess we'll see what happens because I think D'Angelo is at least a better puck mover, but Burns has that shot that's pretty lethal.
Hmm.
So in this league, I kind of went the opposite way. Like I had Mitch Marner as my first round pick because I love my boy Mitch. And then me and you grabbed goalies. Like you grabbed Shesterkin in the first round, and then I grabbed Ottinger at the top of the second round. So the Ottinger pick, I picked it more because I like Dallas. So I'm hoping like he just gets like 40 wins, 40 to 45 wins, and that'd be great for fantasy. A couple shutouts too. And then I went for defense. Round three, I got Yossi. Round four, I got Dougie. So it was like a back-to-back defenseman. And I think you chirped me on the things I took all 90 seconds to pick because I'm there. I'm like, okay, I'll pick Yossi, which I'm kind of like, what he got an assist, but like Yossi, you gotta step it up for me, bro. Come on. So I picked Yossi. Gunsel went. Steven Stamkos went, and then I'm looking for to pick another forward, and I was gonna pick Rupee, but then I'm seeing Dougie there. I'm seeing like freaking Bouchard there, Quinn Hughes there, and I'm really high on Dougie. I remember we talked on the last pod when I picked Yossi. I was like, fuck, I should have picked Dougie. So I'm like, you know what? I'd rather like I think Dougie's upside is like 80 points on the back end. So having an 80-point defenseman over like whatever, hopefully like a 90-point John Tavares or an 86-point Travis Konecny, I think would be more valuable. So I picked the Douglas. I picked the Douglas, and so far so good. He scored every game so far. So
Uh,
I'm
yeah,
kind of liking the Douglas.
I was kind of ticked because I had him queued up. I picked up,
Yes,
right, I got Timo Meyer at the end of the second round, which
I
hasn't been
like
working out
Timo.
so far, but hopefully things will turn around for him. And then I got to Brinkat at the top of the third, and that has been working out. I got to Brinkat and Larkin in both leagues right now, and that connection. I was high on DeBrincat to begin with. I thought he had a lot of bad luck in Ottawa last year, and he is easily the best winger that Larkin has ever had. And so I think
Easily.
this is going to pay dividends for me this year. But I was hoping to get into some more D in the fourth and fifth round there, and you scooped me on Yossi and on
Yeah,
Dougie, um, which was kind of tough. But
yeah. Because also I'm happy you mentioned DeBrincat because I did wanted to mention him. How good must you feel about that pick? Because you did believe in him in both drafts, and in the back of my mind, I was like, I drafted him kind of high. Just because I was like his Ottawa season, and I thought he was just a Patrick Kane like sidekick. You know what I mean? But every time I check that's the score, and I go to the Ottawa game, I mean the Detroit game, he's always scoring, and I'm like, fuck, Adam must feel pretty good about that pick.
yeah, the
Yeah,
one thing that worked out for me this week, the one thing.
yeah, honestly, yeah. It's
Uh,
funny. The reason I honestly picked Yossi and Doug is also my keeper. I have McDavid, and I had Tage Thompson, which I thought was gonna get off to a dynamite start, but I'm still hoping. He had 7 shots on goal last night, so that's a good sign. So I figured let me just divvy up the back end, but forwards went heavy. But like my next forward off the board was Clayton Keller, which I'm kind of happy about too. But I
Scoop
think
me
the
on him
elites went
too.
pretty early.
You scooped me
Yeah,
on him too. I liked him, especially because he's got the three position eligibility. I think that's just such a
that's huge.
yeah. And Arizona plays a lot of off nights as well.
They're
Yeah.
sneaky good, eh? They score a lot of goals.
Well, it's all coming from that top line, right? Like, so I guess that's the one thing, right? When it comes to fantasy, is like your team doesn't have to be good as long as you get the guys on the first line that are going to score, right?
Yeah,
So
honestly, there's a lot of value in like non-playoff teams. Just like someone's got to score goals, you
that's
know.
it, especially on the power play, right? We're in leagues that
Yeah,
reward
they
power play
favor
points.
power
So
plays.
yeah.
I guess just to wrap up, draft. What was your? I guess what was your like? What do you think was your favorite steal out of this draft that you personally made?
Uh,
Later
steal out of this
that you think
draft.
has the most upside?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think probably Chris Kreider in the 10th. He's off to a hot start.
Yes, he
Um,
went late in both. Like, I feel like everyone keeps sleeping on Kreids. Like, he scored the 50 goal season, then he had a kind of a blunder, but he still scored what 30 goals that season. That's still pretty good. But
yeah,
yeah, Kreider's been off to a hot start.
yeah, and they've kind of I feel like they've upgraded a bit on the the top couple lines there. So
Yeah,
yeah, like I said, I don't think I was reaching too far on him. I think it was he dropped a little bit, and I was like, you know what? In our ESPN league, he's got a good number of games, playoff games.
oh hell yeah.
I think in week one he played the Rangers play 5 times in the first week of the ESPN playoffs. So
Holy fuck.
yeah, so I mean I'm hoping that
I'll face Greg that week.
yeah yeah. What about
Yeah,
you? Who's your
Kreids.
steal?
Honestly, I think my last round, like we talked about it,
Yeah,
I think my last round pick, Aiden Hill, is being pretty good. The round 16, either that or Demko in the 13th round. Like if those two could be my top two goalies, that's pretty good value.
speaking of Thatcher Demko, how do we feel about Edmonton? Let's say shitting the bed against
My
Vancouver on
God,
back-to-back games.
like I thought that first game was gonna be like okay, like I blamed it mostly on Jack Campbell. Then it was like hard for them to like come back after 4 goals. So I thought they were just absolutely gonna come out and like smoke them on last night. But then just to not even like Draisaitl gets the first goal, and I think they go down like 1-1, and then there's just like zero effort. And it's just crazy because Skinner only had 12 saves and 4 goals. Is it 4 goals against?
Yeah, yeah, it was
So is
four
it like,
three. That's
is it a
rough, man.
goaltender problem? Is it a freaking defense problem? Yeah, last year they outscored all their problems, but it's not happening this year apparently.
Yeah,
But this
that's a
might
tough
be our
start for them.
yeah. But who knows? Either this is a way too early overreaction, and then this will be in like the TSN highlight pack once they win President's Trophy. Like they lost the first 2 games, but,
Yeah, that's usually the
but who
Leafs
knows?
move,
But they
right?
gotta
Starting slow.
yeah. And we're 2-0, baby.
2
Matthews is the
0.
best player in the world.
Honestly, on pace for what is it, 200 and something goals? I say he doesn't.
242 goals.
Yeah, I say he doesn't.
He at least gets within 5 of that. Come on.
Oh man, yeah, that was a crazy start for the Leafs, and it's good to see them start strong. I was a little worried with the Montreal game. I mean, again, this is our problem, right? Is we don't show up for teams that we should be beating pretty handily, and I think
Yeah.
obviously Montreal is a rebuilding team, and I think it's one of those teams that we should be beating pretty handily, and we just I don't know, for whatever reason we just don't, I don't know, we don't show up, or I think our defense was a little suspect.
Like
Um,
that, a little is an understatement.
yeah,
That Brody
yeah, I got
freaking and that little
Samsonov in our Yahoo league, and that was a rough one to watch for him. I mean, yeah, he probably could have mixed in an extra save or two. I think he ended up with like, I don't know, I think he ended up with like sub 20 saves on the night, which is not great,
yeah.
obviously. Um, but he got the dub,
No, it's
so
rough for the guy. That's all that matters in our league. You just gotta get the dub.
yeah.
Everything else is just added bonus.
So while we're on the
Yeah, it is
topic of the
tough.
Leafs, we have a question from one of our callers. Um,
Ooh,
Mike is
long time fan.
Yeah, long time fan. Yeah, first time caller. He Mike is wondering what we think of John Klingberg and also Jacob Markstrom. He's got him in the Yahoo League, and he wants to hear what we think their upsides are. So why don't we start with Klingberg? What are your thoughts on Klingberg?
I think his offensive upside so far, for what we've seen, has been pretty gosh dang good. Like he's able to get the puck to the forwards faster than I've seen in the last couple of years, at least. The only thing I might be worried about Klingberg is his health, but if he can stay healthy and he just continues to stay on that top power play, seeing him in the offensive zone, he's great. Seeing him in the defensive zone, not so much. But luckily for fantasy, all that matters is offense. So I think he's at least worth a hold for the next couple of weeks. You know what I mean? Like that Leaf power play has been looking pretty good so far, and he seems to have the point, and he's been looking pretty good with the puck.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think I think he's gonna rise and fall with that Leaf power play. And right now, he's on that first power play, which obviously is important. How much he's doing on that power play, it remains to
Good
be
story.
seen, right? Again, they don't, and and part of me wonders if this is why he got moved to that power play, and why Riley's on the second power play where he needs to be more involved, because I have felt in previous years that Riley was overly involved in the power play, and he's looking off Matthews taking the shot and things like that, and I'm thinking, look, I get it, Mo. Like I like Mo. I think he's a great guy, and all that aside, he's a great player, but you're not the trigger man. The offense should not be
Yeah,
running through the D man on that 4-1 stack. They're just so strong up front. So I think part of that
I
success
know
has been moving off of that, and Klingberg I think is a good filler there. So I don't know. I don't think he's gonna. I think he's gonna get some power play points just by proxy of kind of like playing with McDavid a little bit, right? Where guys just end up with some points. You're playing with Crosby, right? You end up with points just
for
because you're
sure.
playing with these guys, right? But I only have Klingberg projected at about 30 assists and 9 goals, 14 of which on the power play. So I don't know. I don't know.
I could see him out do that. I could see him out do that. Like I said, as
Yeah,
long as he remains healthy and my power play clicks. Because like you said, Riley, like he should not be looking off a 60 goal scorer. Come on, buddy. Like, but I think Klingberg, from what I've seen, like he doesn't shoot as much on the power play, but he does have that shot, right? But I think he passes the puck very good, and I think he knows his role. Like he's also in a contract year. He only has a 1 year deal, and he sucked in his last 2 years. So just kind of like a prove it moment for Klingberg. So I think as long as he wraps up those apples, like hopefully he can do like a 50, maybe 60, maybe even 60 points. Like and 60 points with half of them on the power play. That's huge in fantasy, at least, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that's my ceiling for him. I think 60 points is like kind of reasonable.
yeah. I think
Like I don't think I think like back
I'd say my projections are having it from 40. I would say 50 would be stretching it for me personally.
50.
But you know what, you're right. Hey, if he
Flip
becomes an
this.
integral part of that power play, yeah,
All he has to do is be the secondary assist man. But
it's true.
there are a lot of triggers because I noticed once he passes it to like Marner or Nylander, they're like Nylander to Marner to Nylander to Ferris to Patrick to things. So I
Yeah,
guess we'll see how it happens. But I do like Klingberg. I like his upside.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so what do we think about Jacob Markstrom and the Calgary Flames on a broader perspective? I think obviously they had a down year last year. But what do you
Very
think? They
down.
they bouncing back this year?
I honestly think like in terms of down year they did, but if you look at the numbers, they missed playoffs by I think was it 1 point or 2 points, and I think they set the record or they had like the most games lost either in overtime or by 1 goal. So it's like two lucky bounces they would have been in the playoffs, and like who knows.
Hmm.
And also this is my conspiracy theory hat going on, but I truly feel like if players do not like a coach, like they will kind of sandbag a season. Like I don't know, I could be wrong. I know these guys are competitors and everything, but it sounded like they were walking into the morgue every time they had practice, and like
Yeah,
now they're like, oh, we're having so much fun and whatever. So it's hard to win games when that's your mentality. So I feel like Huberto's off to a good start. He has 3 points already in 2 games. And I think Beager has to step up this year. And if Beager steps up this year, I think Markstrom could come back to being like a top 10 fantasy goalie at
yeah.
least. I think his age is the only thing that concerns me. But these goalies, as long as they got a good team in front of them at this day and age, like I don't think he's gonna have that monster shutout as in a season that he had like 2 years ago. But if Calgary's a playoff team, Markstrom's a good fantasy goalie for sure.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it was definitely a down year last year. I think there was a lot of new guys, like there's a lot of changeover, and obviously it's hard to see, your two best players walk, right? I guess not walk,
Yeah,
but they threatened to walk, and so they got traded, and obviously, well, sorry, Goodrow walked, but they were able to trade Kachuk, and you're thinking, maybe they recouped, but obviously they lost that trade. I think that's pretty apparent at this point. Um,
yeah,
so I think that's for team morale and stuff like that. That's hard, right? So I fully see what you're saying. I think obviously with the coach as well. So I think they could bounce back a little bit. I don't know. I still I have Markstrom projected as my 15th best goalie. So middle of the pack, not terrible, not great, but still he's going to be a top two in an 8-man league, right? So that's not nothing.
for sure.
I got him projected
He's gonna get
starting.
the starts also.
Yeah, I got him projected starting 57 games, so a little bit less than some of the higher whatever guys who are getting like the 60, who are pushing the 60 range, but that's not still 56 starts. That's a lion's share.
Huge.
Um, but I only have him going for 29 wins, so he's still sub 30 wins. I don't know. I don't know. I'm out. Jury's out on him a little bit. I think he could have a bounce back year.
You
I,
think he's on a shorter leash with Ladar and especially Dustin Wolf? He won AHL goalie of the year two
yeah,
years in a row, and now he's back there. Like he's too good for the AHL, obviously.
yeah.
So maybe he's on a shorter leash, which could either benefit him because he's got to play, or it'll either like cause him too much stress, lose a couple games. You have literally Wolf breathing down your throat, right? So there's that concern.
Yeah,
But
for sure. Yeah, at 33 years of age, right, I know goalies have a later aging curve, but I still think you're right. Like, I think age has to be a concern, especially with the young guys pushing him. Um, so yeah, that's why I'm on the fence with him, right? Because he said, like it takes one stumble at some point in the season where one of these other guys steps up and grabs the reins,
yeah,
and yeah, he's making bank, and they probably want to come back to him. He's never going to lose like the backup spot or whatever. Like he's always going to be, but
maybe the probably the best backup in the league.
yeah, yeah, it's a big contract, man. He's got a $6 million 6 year contract. I mean, hey, he's got a few years
Yeah,
left too. So yeah,
he's
we'll see.
got. I feel like in terms of NHL, I don't really like him, but in fantasy, I feel like he could at least have a good year in fantasy
Yeah, I
for
feel like
sure.
he'll always be relevant at least. So yeah,
Yeah,
Like it's a good upside pick again. If you know if you're getting him if you're drafting him late, you know what I mean. I wouldn't reach on him, but if you get him in a decent round, I think it's pretty
Yeah.
good. Um, so yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I don't mind him. I don't mind him for sure.
Oh, right on.
Let's see. Yeah, Mike got him in the ninth. So
Yeah, the ninth is
yeah,
good value
that's good.
for it.
Yeah, went right before
Yeah,
Sergei Bobrovsky. Although I don't know how much I
Bobrovsky's
like.
not looking too good,
Nah, it's
right?
not
Huh?
looking too good at all. Um,
No, he's coming
yeah,
back to the Bobrovsky we all know and love.
yeah. You just at least have that ability to run into these really hot old goaltenders for that one last.
We make average goalies look like studs.
I know, I know. That's frustrating, but yeah, yeah. He went. So okay, so
So I
here this
guess
is interesting actually. He went after Stuart Skinner. That's pretty funny. But he went
Stu got
before.
drafted, and then
Yeah, so Stuart Skinner went in the top of the seventh round, and then Markstrom went middle of the ninth round, and then you scooped Aiden Hill at the top of the 11th round. At Aiden Hill
that
dropping,
boy.
man. He went.
Honestly, like I saw the Yahoo rankings. Like I had to like scroll down, and I just don't get how they rank these guys because he literally won the Stanley Cup. I guess his body of work, his career didn't
Yeah,
look as great,
I think it's
but
the games
he's the
played.
number one goalie. You know, probably that.
It's that he's
Yeah,
not projected
games
to.
played.
He's not projected to get like a full starter's workload, right? And so it's just
He does get
yeah,
injured every year as well, so that's also back. Like everyone gets injured every year. Like it's always so tough. It's so tough to call,
yeah,
but yeah, just it's been great upside so far.
yeah. I don't know if I had to
It might be.
choose. If I had to choose between an injury-prone goalie on the Stanley Cup winner versus an older guy on a team that's maybe on like a bubble team. I don't know. I think I like your bet
You
on
gotta
Aiden
go with
Hill.
Aiden.
Yeah.
That's it. That's where the elite minds come in. No, no, I'm joking. I just gotta deflate the tires before
Yeah.
I pump him up again. We'll see how he is in a couple of months.
uh, so what do you speaking of goalies? What do you think of Gustafson in Minnesota? He starts the season with a shutout and then he follows it up with a touchdown.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Well, like I was high on him at the end of the year, but I'm always like always hesitant when goalies come out of nowhere. Like that was Fleury's job, and then he got traded from Ottawa. Like imagine if Ottawa still have the Gus Bus, they would be a pretty good team. But he got traded from Ottawa, and then he just took the reins. So this year I kind of let him slide a bit, and then it's always like the first shutout game. You're like, why did I pass on him? And then he scores a touchdown the next game, and then you're like, well, who is this guy? What is this goalie?
Yeah.
But it's weird because like when I heard that Spurgeon was like week to week, like he's pretty important for that team on the defense, especially because they lost Dumba. Like I get Dumba's not he's still a big body on the back end. He has his like skills on defense. So I thought they were gonna get off to like a very poor start, but he seems like he has the talent in front of him. So whether it's because Florida was down and out and like they have skeletons and the Leafs are just elite firepower, who knows? But it's hard to gauge a goalie once he has a 44 save shutout and then he lets in 7 goals the next game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think he's talented, but he'll only go as far as the Minnesota defense kind of let him.
Yeah. So
So
I
it's tough.
I had him at the end of the year last year. I picked him up on
Yeah,
waivers towards the end of the season, and I kind of ended up trading Saros before the trade deadline because I felt like Gustafson kind of made room to allow me to upgrade somewhere else at the cost of Saros.
yeah,
So I also had Vasilevsky, obviously, for context there. So I had a number one. I kind of had two number ones, and I figured I could move one to let Gustafson get some room, and then the thing I struggled with was that he was getting the harder games, and then Fleury was getting the easy games, and then Fleury would get a shutout in the easy game,
yeah.
and then Gustafson would get lit up the next night by
In the harder games,
Tampa or whoever, right? Like it was painful to
what's
watch.
going on?
Yeah. And the worst part was is that the guy I ended up playing in the first round of the playoffs was carrying Fleury, and it made that first week like
Yeah,
much closer than I think it needed to be because he's getting Fleury shutouts and I'm getting, 3 goal losses from
cuts.
Gustafson.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it kind of
yeah.
scared
It's
me
always
off of him a
tough.
little bit.
It's tough with goalies because I think he's talented, but what like at least my philosophy with goalies, I draft them based on the team, and
Yeah,
I just wasn't as high on Minnesota as I guess some others were. But I don't know. I guess we'll see the next game if he gets a shutout again. It's like what's going on? But I think they're gonna go to Fleury the next game anyways. But
Yeah, I think they're in
yeah,
Montreal, right? So I think Fleury,
oh, okay. Fleury's
yeah,
getting
probably
that game.
he'll probably get that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess we'll see with the Gus Bus what happens in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's a tough one. That's a tough one. Oh man. All right. Do we have anything
Let's
else we
go
want to run over before we wrap up?
No, I think we covered everything. I guess we could wrap up with the what is your way too early like panics right now about your team?
Panic? Oh god. Oh, which team and which panic, man? Holy shit! This has been
Yeah. Let
this
me
has
write
been
you
a
a
week.
list.
A week with a capital W. Holy smokes. I mean, I think one of the things that I'm a little bit worried about. I'm actually worried about so many things, man. I guess I'll start with Darlene in Buffalo. He's got one assist through 2 games. They've
Yes.
looked ineffectual. He's I don't know. I don't know. He's got 6 shots, so I'm not even giving up on him. But I do worry about that offense. 3 goals in 2 games for a team that we talked about, everyone hyped up in the preseason, being so deep up front, being so deep on the back end, possibly having goaltending with Devin Levi for the first time in however many years, right? Like,
Yeah.
Darlene signs the big contract extension. I just,
So does Power. Like,
yeah, they're locking in guys, and it's just like I don't know.
they probably should have let them play on that contract here just a little bit. Yeah.
Just a little bit longer, yeah. Well, and this is it, right? Like
Yeah.
they're probably afraid that Darlene goes out and puts out a 90-point season, and now he wants more than 11 million or whatever, right? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, it's interesting you mentioned Buffalo because that's one of my concerns too with Tage Thompson. He's one of my keepers,
yeah,
and he's the reason that I kind of went with a goalie in the second and then 2 defensemen in the third and fourth because I thought, cool, McDavid 100 points, Tage Thompson could get 90 again. I got Marner that could get 99, like 100 as my first round. That's because I started picking out my teams. So if Tage doesn't pan out, like the only reason my week's close right now is because Evgeny Malkin is going back to his Art Ross days this week. So without him, like he's my only multi-goal forward. So if Tage Thompson doesn't pan out, I think my team's a little bit of trouble. So yeah, I think Buffalo's both of our way too early panics because I think like in the past years they always start off really hot and they're like the best team and they're like, oh, they're making playoffs, and then they like dip down mid to end off hot. So I'm hoping that maybe they're just like gotta get their bearings and then they can explode.
yeah,
But they gotta do it soon.
yeah. Because Darlene kind of did that to me last year. I traded for him at the deadline, and I let go of Montour, and I was
Yeah.
thinking, yeah, like. It was probably like an equal trade at the time, but I'm thinking long term. You know what I mean? I think Darlene has the upside, right? So
That was a great trade.
yeah, and I thought, like I said, I moved down 2 rounds and I got a keeper out of it. So I was thinking, yeah, that made sense for
Yeah.
me. But he kind of cooled off at the last half of the season, and Montreal played him, and it was kind of frustrating. I mean, would it have made a difference in my playoff run? Not so. I don't think so much. I think in the second round, I ran into a hot team, the same hot
Michael,
team
Josh
that.
Norris.
Yeah, they gave you a hard time. Shout out to the Pig Sparkle Ponies. But yeah, it was a rough one, and so I don't think it would have made the difference. But I was hoping for a bit of a bounce back this year. I was kind of hoping him to start off on the right foot. So I don't know. Hope what? Hey, if he gets hot in the playoffs instead, I'd rather have that anyways. But
Take that.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough.
Oh, that's why we call it the way too early fantasy panics.
I love it.
folks.
I love it.
So we'll see what happens. So I guess for our next pod, we are facing each other in our Yahoo League after
I think week
this
3.
is week 3, correct?
Yeah, week 3. We
So
win.
we will come at you with the pre-episode, I guess, next Sunday,
I like it.
previewing our matchup,
Yeah.
and then we'll hit you up with the aftermath. Who's on top and who's on the bottom, baby?
Yeah, I think we have to come up with we should come up with our bet right now. What's the wager? We got to have a little side bet, a little bit of a side bet.
What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking
doing,
I think we could revive one of our first side bets, but for the podcast. Do you remember what our first side bets was?
Son of a bitch, I do. Alright, let's keep it a surprise. The fantasy thing knows. All right, let's do that.
All right, that's a good wager. I like that wager.
That's a good wager. That's a good wager.
All right, so we'll have a surprise for the next podcast. One or the other, you'll know who lost for sure.
You'll know who lost at the beginning of the episode of
Yeah.
our episode 4 actually.
Actually, episode 4. Well, assuming it's close. Yeah.
Assuming it gets close, yeah.
Oh man. All right. That was good. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks, and we hope you all are winning your weeks.
Good luck, everybody, and we'll catch you later.